On this week's episode of the Nerf Report, Summer Game Fest and a PlayStation State of Play roll through town, giving us a bunch of brand new updates and video games to talk about. The Switch 2 has officially launched and the console's first reviews are beginning to hit the interwebs. We have to talk about this week's Game of the Week, Mario Kart World. All of this and a whole bunch of nonsense on this week's episode of the Nerf Report.
Are you listening?
Strangers from distant lands and friends of old, you've been summoned for another episode of the Nerf Report. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with me this week. It is a wild time. Summer has officially arrived. It is hot as hell in the studio. So if I start getting a little glistening as we get through the episode, please forgive me. It is hot. The AC, I turned it off so we would get pristine audio here on the show, because I know there are those of you who watch this show on YouTube, those of you who watch our clips over on TikTok, but how could we forget those of you who head over to Spotify and Apple Podcast every single week, put on the show, put in your earbuds, and let us tickle your ear canals as you play video games. That means the world to me, so thank you so much. A little bit of housekeeping before we get the show started. If you haven't done so already, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. This show gets updated every single week, bringing you the week's gaming news, everything that you want to know, everything that you need to talk about, everything that is important. Obviously, we're not going to dive into politics. We're not going to dive into real-world issues. We're here to talk about good old-fashioned video games, just like we did yesterday. Summer Games Fest took place. We had our first Summer Games Fest live stream. We've never done a live stream for Summer Games Fest. It was fun. Got to hang out with you guys, talk about video games, see everything that got debuted, and we're going to talk about my favorite games today on this show. But if you missed it, don't worry, that live stream is still up on YouTube. We have another one coming up on Sunday, June 8th at 12 p.m. Central Time. The Xbox Game Showcase, let's get that correct, goes live, and we will obviously be doing a Nerf Gaming News live event over on YouTube. And also, if you follow us on TikTok, you'll be able to see it over there live. Anyway, big week for the world of gaming. A lot of new games to talk about, a lot of new game trailers. But as we do on every week's show, let's talk about the games that came out this week, the week of June 2nd. That's right, we are officially into June. I saw somebody on social media was like, we've officially hit the halfway point for 2025. And I was like, first up, rude. Yes, this year has flown by, but like, I can't believe we're already in June. It's incredible. Now, first game to launch this week was on Tuesday, June 3rd. We had Rise of Industry, and then we skipped Wednesday and went over to Thursday, which was just bringing big boy energy. That's exactly what was happening. So on Thursday, June 5th, Tour de France 2025 launched. Another game called Survival Kids launched. Rune Factory, Guardians of Azuma, not Gardens. That's a completely different game. Guardians of Azuma, way better game than Gardens of Azuma. No offense to the developers who make gardening video games, it's just not my thing. Puyo Puyo Tetris 2S launched this week. Nobunaga S Ambition Awakening Complete Edition. Look, I know we got gaming presidents, and I know people try to run all the time. I think it's time that I run for president, because I'm going to run on two things. One, video games have to launch on Mondays, right? This week, along with every single week this year so far, we have not gotten any video games that launched on Mondays. I'm not saying it would create world peace, but I'm just saying our lives would be significantly better if games came out on Monday. But rule number two, your game cannot be ridiculously long titles. Nobunaga S Ambition Awakening Complete Edition, shorten that name. That is a ridiculous name. Also on Thursday, June 5th, we had our game of the week, Mario Kart World. We're going to be diving into more about that game. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 version launched, along with the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild Switch 2 version. Fast Fusion launched on Thursday, June 5th. Bravely Default Flying Fairy HD Remaster launched on June 5th, which brought us to June 6th, where Splitgate 2, a fantastic first-person shooter game. If you have not seen it, highly recommend you check it out. I almost made this the game of the week because I really like what they're doing with Splitgate 2, but I was like, we have to talk about Mario Kart World. But Splitgate 2, very close second for the game of the week this week. So definitely, if you're a fan of first-person shooters, if you're a fan of games like Titanfall and Halo, or even just Portal, this is definitely a game to give a watch. Like, head over, check out the trailer. Highly recommend that. And then the final game to launch this week, closing it out, was Dragon is Dead. Very solid week. A bunch of games launching. Please, as always, sound off in the comment section letting us know what you played this week. Did you get your fancy brand new Nintendo Switch? I know it's been taking over the interwebs. Everybody's excited. They're showing off their Switches. Somebody had a really bad week, though, because I saw like GameStop stapled their receipt onto the cardboard box, and the staples pierced the Nintendo Switch 2 screen, and I was like, that sucks. Now, I don't know if there's like a warranty policy or if GameStop would stand behind it, but at the same time, I'm like, kind of just have to deal with it, right? Because there's not really a good chance that they're going to have like replacements behind the counter, but for that gamer, definitely a bummer. I myself, I did not get a Switch 2. Kind of some crazy times in the Chappelle household right now. AC went out, car went out. Literally every financial issue you could imagine happened within the last couple months. So we're going to be waiting until later this year to pick up the Switch 2. But when we do, we will have our review here on the channel. But we obviously need to dive into our game of the week. As we do every single week, we nominate the week's biggest game and talk about it here. And this week's game of the week is none other than Mario Kart World, the long-awaited evolution of Nintendo's iconic racing franchise and the first Mario Kart title built exclusively for the Nintendo Switch 2. Yeah, obviously, big week for Nintendo. The new console is out. Mario Kart World launched on June 5th alongside the Switch 2, and I want to know what everybody else is thinking. Let's bring up the Metacritic, please. Right now, Mario Kart World is sitting at a 90 on Metacritic. Now, definitely worth noting, at the time of filming this, there's only 6 reviews in, right? Nintendo held off on sending out review copies of their games and their consoles, and a lot of press outlets weren't able to actually play the review copies of the review consoles until the console actually launched. So there's a lot of people playing catch up. But I did want to compare this to kind of some older Mario Kart games. So obviously Mario Kart World, it's at a 90. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe had a 92, which that game lasted a very long generation. Originally launched on the Wii U, and then it came over to the Nintendo Switch, and it has lived a very long life cycle. Mario Kart 7, that game had an 85 on Metacritic, and Mario Kart Wii received an 82. So it's sounding like, based off these 6 reviews that are in right now, Mario Kart World is going to be right in with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. But let's dive into the press reviews, the reviews that are available at this time. Destructoid gave Mario Kart World a 9 out of 10. Game Reactor UK gave the game a 9 out of 10. Nintenduo, fun name, that's actually a very clever name for an outlet. Nintenduo gave it a 92 out of 100. Dexerto gave it a 4 out of 5. Am I pronouncing? I've always just said Dexerto. Dexerto? I don't know how to pronounce that. But anyway, 4 out of 5. Steve Ivor gave it a 9 out of 10. And Area Ugones, I guess that means games, gave it a 9.5 out of 10. Yes, IGN's not there, Gaming Bible's not there, GameSpot's not there, Kotaku's not there. These are the reviews that were in, so give me some credit, my friends. This is what we're going with. But so far, it sounds like the game is going pretty well. Now, obviously, these are professional reviews. I wanted to jump on the internet and kind of figure out exactly what people are excited about, why they're hyped for this video game. And I gotta say, a lot of people are really excited about the fact that this is exclusive for the Nintendo Switch 2. Yeah, this game launched on June 5th, and Mario Kart World, like we said, is the first mainline Mario Kart game that has been developed exclusively for the Nintendo Switch 2, and it showcases the console's enhanced capabilities. And originally, this game was going to launch side by side with the Nintendo Switch and the Switch 2 having access to this game, but Nintendo was like, nope, let's let this be our workhorse, let's let this show off the console, and I think that was a pretty solid decision by Nintendo. One of the big features here is it features open world racing. Yeah, the previous games had like traditional track-based racing, and this game introduces like a completely open world map with interconnected race courses. So you can drive all the way from Bowser's Castle to to like down south where Donkey Kong is, or drive over to like Peach's Castle. The entire course is available in an open world, and players can explore the game on their own pace, engaging in side missions across the map, discovering collectibles, and of course, enjoying the game however they want to. The other big benefit to Mario Kart World is that it features a bigger player count. This is the first time in the series that Mario Kart will now allow players to race up to 24 players simultaneously, pretty much doubling the game's max player count from Mario Kart 8. There's also a brand new mode called Knockout Tour. And a lot of people get upset when I call it Battle Royale, but it's kind of what it is. Essentially, you're in a race with 24 other players, and as you hit certain places, they're like, hey, you've got to be at 15 or below to continue. If you're like 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Anyway, if you're in the past, if you're beyond 15, you get eliminated from the race. And then the next checkpoint brings it down to 10, and the next checkpoint brings it down to 5, 4, 3, so on, so on, and so on. So really cool update to the game, and I think that adds like a little bit of strategy and excitement to the game that, it just adds a little flavor that I think has long been missing. And there's also a bunch of new gameplay mechanics. Mario Kart World has things like wall driving and rail grinding, which kind of create like some really cool opportunities for hidden achievements, right? You could be racing and you're like, oh, there's a shortcut, let me get over here. Or there might be something hidden in the open world map you need to get to, and you've got to use the new wall driving, hopping, or rail grinding techniques in order to get that. So, some of the critiques, I will say, there are a couple critiques about this game. Number one, obviously the price. People are worried about like, hey, is this really worth it? The early reviews that people were talking about, I think they're saying like, hey, Mario Kart World is good. I don't think it's a concern, but it will be interesting as more press outlets get a hold of it and are able to talk about it to kind of see their side of it. I have seen on Reddit quite a few people that are upset by like the open world environment, that they're like, it's not truly what they thought. Like, it's kind of an open world as Nintendo decides to do it, and like as you drive through it, it's lacking depth and it's lacking, randomness and life. And I think that is something that you really do want from an open world, and I guess I'm not really surprised because, again, this is a Mario Kart racing game. I'm not going to expect the same thing that GTA has or the same thing that Red Dead has. But if you were a player who was expecting that, obviously, you could be disappointed. Now, those are the big critiques that I've heard. I think everything that we talked about positively about this game obviously outweighs it. Haven't played myself. I'm just going off of what I've heard from other people talk about and I've seen firsthand on gameplay streams. But I do think Mario Kart World is definitely a game to pick up if you have a Nintendo Switch 2. It's like a no-brainer. You pick up the Switch 2, pick up Mario Kart, because you will play that game not only right now, because there's not a lot of other games available, but it's also a great opportunity to play that game for a long time after the Switch is out. But anyway, Mario Kart World, congratulations to Nintendo, congratulations to the development team. You are this week's Game of the Week. Pick it up yourself. And moving on from one Nintendo story, let's talk about the biggest Nintendo story of this week. The Nintendo Switch 2 is officially available. That's right, the Switch 2 is officially out, and the internet is giving us some of their first reactions. And yeah, like we talked about during like the Mario Kart Game of the Week segment, this has been super interesting to watch, because normally when consoles come out, like the day before or the week before, we see like IGN or GameSpot or insert YouTuber here basically give their thoughts, or like they've gotten like an early copy or an early console, and they kind of give their feedback of why they're excited and why you should go buy that. That didn't happen with the Switch 2. In fact, according to Nintendo, they were like, it's not possible. Like, the Switch 2 requires a update over Wi-Fi that if we send it to you, pretty much anybody else in the world would have access to it. Now, I claim BS on that because I feel like they could do it like by putting in a digital card and that would update it. And I'm like, there's other ways you could update tech. It doesn't have to happen specifically over Wi-Fi. It's 100% doable. It's just the fact that Nintendo didn't want to send out these review copies, which then as like a conspiracy theorist gamer, you're like, why didn't they want to send it out, man? What is Nintendo trying to hide from us? Like, are they trying to make sure people don't know that their console's not going to work? Are they worried that the consoles are going to get poorly reviewed, man? Or is this just part of the scheme where the man just wants us to dive into commercialism and buy, no matter what the console is, just continue to buy, man? No, look, I don't think it's any of that. I think it's just Nintendo's like, we don't need reviews. We don't need to send out copies. This console is going to sell whether or not IGN covers it, or whether or not GameSpot covers it, or whether Marquez Brownlee covers it on YouTube. This console was going to sell. So I don't think Nintendo felt the pressure that they had to get these out there. That being said, the console is officially out, and we are getting the first reviews from gamers who are having actual hands-on time. And I kind of pulled some feedback from all across the internet, and I wanted to talk about it. So the guys over at Tom's Guide were talking about the hardware enhancements here on the Switch, saying that like users are really appreciating the improved performance. Like the console does have improved internal hardware, which makes running games a lot better. The screen itself is obviously significantly larger. It's 7.9 inches. One of my friends, Josh, was telling me that, hey, it's not OLED, but it's just as good. Like, he put his OLED Switch on the counter, and he put his new Switch 2 on the counter, and he was like, yes, it's not OLED, but it's significantly better than the original Switch screen, so that's cool. A lot of people are digging the new Joy-Con controllers. They've got the magnetic attachment, so instead of like clipping it in, it just claps right in. Super cool. And then, of course, the biggest one is backwards compatibility, right? This has become something that I feel like has become standard amongst all video game consoles, but it's also something that Nintendo could have easily been like, we're gonna be Nintendo, and backwards compatibility doesn't exist. So the fact that the Switch 2 can run previous Switch games, I think is a huge plus for many gamers. Now, you'll notice we started off with the positives because people on the internet like to say I'm a Nintendo hater, but we started off with the positives because we are about to pull that rug right from underneath the Switch 2. Let's talk about some of the criticisms and concerns that gamers are talking about on the internet. First and foremost, price point. $449.99 US dollars is a damn lot of money. That is a crap ton of money that, look, I'm not going to question people's financial decisions, but like in today's economy, it's wild. People are complaining about $6 eggs, $12 eggs. People are complaining groceries are getting too expensive. They doubled in cost. Yeah, somehow the entire world's like, $450 for a console. We can pull that. We can make that happen. It's just wild. The other thing that people are criticizing is like the limited number of exclusives for the console. Right, I think there's 24 games that are available, launch titles. There's 24 titles, and when you look at it, Mario Kart World is pretty much kind of the only exclusive. And then I guess you got Nintendo Switch Tour, but we'll talk about that a little later. And Mario Kart World, look, people are just hoping that it was like cool. Like, yes, this is a great game. It got a 90 on Metacritic. People are excited, but they wanted to see like new exclusive titles, something bigger. I do think a big win could have been like having Donkey Kong available or having Metroid available at launch. I think would have been a big deal. Now, some of the games that are available right now for the Switch 2 is definitely worth noting. The Legend of Zelda, you got Breath of the Wild, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Split Fiction is available, Cyberpunk 2077, Hogwarts Legacy, Fortnite Switch 2 Welcome Tour, and something that I didn't expect to be a criticism, but I've seen plenty of people talk about this, is the user interface. A lot of people were expecting like, hey, we're getting a brand new console, let's change up the user interface. Maybe we're going to get a brand new home screen. Maybe we'll get like a new game management. Nintendo was like, yo, if it's not broken, why fix it? In fact, I saw, I think it was Nintendo podcast over on YouTube. They showed a comparison that even most viewers couldn't even tell the difference. They showed the Nintendo Switch OG user interface, and then they showed the Switch 2 user interface directly next to each other. And the guys on the podcast were like, I don't know which one's new. I don't know which one's the old one, which is very intriguing. I mean, again, I think this is Nintendo's like, why put resources towards something that's actually working? Let's just invest it towards actually new hardware and getting this to work. And then, of course, the final criticism I think we have to talk about is the Switch 2 Welcome Tour. Now, we have talked about this plenty here on the internet, but essentially this is a digitalized, gamified instruction manual that will cost you $9.99, and the folks over at IGN were quick to give this a 50%. But what's interesting is not only are they making you pay for this new instruction manual that teaches you how to use the console, but there are sections in this game that are behind a paywall because you have to buy additional hardware in order to get to them. So not only is this an instruction manual you have to pay for, but if you care about things like trophies and achievements, you have to buy additional items like a webcam or a Switch 2 Pro controller or even a 4K TV in order to be able to get all of the achievements and mini games and unlockments during this game. Is it a big issue? No, I think there's bigger issues in the world going on today, but again, just something that is being criticized. Now, when you take the criticisms and you take the positives that everyone is talking about on the internet, I do think it's worth noting the Switch 2 does look like it's a great upgrade, right? If you're a fan of the Switch, if you're a fan of Nintendo, and you want to stay in that ecosystem, but you're like, man, I wish it would run a little faster, or I wish the screen was a little clearer, Switch 2 is a great option to upgrade. But I think it's definitely worth noting this is not earth-shattering technology we're seeing here, right? This is not a leap like we're seeing with the PlayStation 5 to the PlayStation 6 or the Xbox Series X to the next-gen consoles. We constantly see PlayStation and Xbox and even PC gaming push the limits of what's possible. But for the Switch 2, this just feels like, hey, you really liked the OG? Cool. We're going to give you more of that. But anyway, like I said, I have not been able to pick up this console, so I don't have firsthand experience with it. I haven't been able to create my own experiences. This is literally just what everyone's going off of on Reddit and social media, and I figured it'd be interesting to talk about. But you tell me in the comment section, have you played the Switch 2? What's your experience been like? Obviously, sound out in the comment section. Let me know what you like, what you don't like. Are you liking the games? Am I completely off base on the welcome tour? Is like $9.99 a decent price for that? Let me know in the comment section. And as always, I appreciate your feedback. Now, moving on from Nintendo, let's dive into the world of PlayStation, as PlayStation held a state of play this week where they showed off a ton of new games that are coming to the PlayStation platform. And I'm not going to cover all of them. I just want to cover just some of them that I thought were super cool and definitely worth noting. Sea of Remnants, which... let's pull this trailer up, because don't be deceived. This is not a new DLC expansion for Sea of Thieves. No, this is a brand new free-to-play pirate RPG where players can recruit crews, explore, and build your own island life. Now, according to what I've read about this game on like its Steam page and its own page on the PlayStation side, essentially, there's over like 300 NPCs with unique behaviors in this game, and they all have like choices that will influence like the politics and the factions, and that's super cool. Obviously, this trailer has a bunch of like naval combat. You can engage in sea battles against your friends and sea monsters and enemies, and it's all turn-based land battles as well. So like when you get on the land, you can still continue the combat and the fights. It's just not like fire your cannons. It's all just turn-based over there. Now, the ships themselves can be customized, which I think is completely expected when it comes to pirate games. Like, if you give me a pirate game and I have to have the same ship the entire time, it's like 2025. What are we even doing here? But the other cool thing is, like, the artistic style. Like, this features a super unique blend, and I think that it's the graffiti visuals. It looks super dope, man. And I think that this game definitely is worth keeping an eye on. Release date, a lot of these did not have a 2025 release date on them. This will be 2026, so we will be waiting a while. But yeah, I mean, who doesn't want more pirate video games in their life? I'm definitely looking into this. And it looks like, again, Sea of Thieves, I think, is where the bar is at when it comes to pirate games. And then you get like Skull and Bones and other ones. I feel like this has the potential to outseat Skull and Bones and be like a really cool option. Now, the second game we obviously have to talk about is 007 First Light, which is a brand new James Bond video game. This is a third-person action-adventure game from IO Interactive. This is the studio that does the fantastic Hitman series, and they will be changing the perspective from Hitman, going to James Bond, and this will be a Bond origin story. Yeah, so essentially James Bond, I was like, when we were seeing this trailer, I was like, are we getting Sean Connery? Is it going to be Pierce Brosnan? Like, it was going to be Pierce Brosnan, and I was like, holy hell, there is a god. We're getting Pierce Brosnan in to play James Bond again. No, it wasn't him. It wasn't Daniel Craig. We are getting a brand new James Bond, a younger James Bond at the age of 26. Barely got a beard, barely grown a mustache, but old enough to get his 00 status with MI6. Yeah, this early James Bond kind of reminded me of like an early young Nathan Drake that we got to see on Uncharted. And I'm like, hey, I'm here for it. And then as far as the gameplay goes, it does really look like they're going to be staying true to the Hitman style of like stealth mechanics, where each mission you're going to go in and kind of create your own outcome. Obviously, there's going to be like brute force. You can just go in there guns a-blazing and take care of the mission. You can go in there with charm and be like, hey, I'm not supposed to be here, but like me, I'm a nice guy. Or you can go in there with complete stealth. And then I'm very intrigued to see how they like implement like the obvious Q, if you're not aware, in the James Bond lore, is the guy that builds all the technology. And I'm like, man, you could really go hard in the paint there and create some really cool gadgets and really cool tech for James Bond to be using in this game. But anyway, probably the biggest disappointment out of this, because I think this trailer was fantastic, the biggest disappointment was that they was going to be releasing in 2026. Like, I want this game now. I need a new James Bond game in my life, and I'm hoping we get to see more this weekend and just fall in love with this whole series all over again. And moving on to the final game that I want to talk about from the State of Play this week was Marvel Token Fighting Souls. And essentially, this is a 4v4 tag team fighting game that's being developed by Arc System Works, and it'll feature the super iconic Marvel characters. And the list of characters that are going to be in this game are like Captain America, Iron Man, Spider-Man, Doctor Doom, Storm, Miss Marvel, Star-Lord's going to be in it, Ghost Rider's in the game. This looks incredible, and essentially, you're going to be assembling your team of 4 Marvel characters, and you can have like primary fighters and assist characters, and each character will have their own skills and ultimates and attacks, creating like super really cool combinations that you go into the field. And again, what makes this unique is like this is being developed specifically for PlayStation. It'll be launching on the PlayStation 5, but also coming to PC as well. But as far as release dates go, again, bummer here, 2026. If you're a fan of Marvel, you definitely got to be excited, because on one hand, we lost a Black Panther video game, but then you look at this and you look at the gameplay and the graphics and you're like, damn, okay, I will definitely take this. But yeah, those were the games I got the most excited for during the State of Play. Sound off in the comment section what else you liked. I mean, yeah, we saw Ghost of Yotei, but like we didn't see any gameplay. It was just like a teaser of what was to come. Definitely wanted to see more from that game, but I guess we will have to wait to see. So sound off in the comment section. Let me know what you got excited about. Did you like the games that I mentioned, or did you not like those games? What piqued your interest? And moving on from the world of PlayStation, we need to move to the world of Grand Theft Auto 6, as Grand Theft Auto 6 fan anticipation is reaching peak levels of hype. Yes, fans are desperately clamoring for any drop of detail about Grand Theft Auto 6, to the point that I think they're starting to pull like a Thanos and make Grand Theft Auto 6 themselves. GTA is like, yo, we're going to delay Grand Theft Auto 6, and gamers are out there like, fine, I'll make the game myself. In fact, this week alone, we had 2 stories that went viral surrounding fan-made Grand Theft Auto 6. The first one is a GTA 6 remake of the brand new trailer, but this time it's completely made with Legos, which I don't not like this. In fact, I think like a Lego video game filled with crime, murder, sex, and danger sounds like the game that all the Lego adults out there want. Like, obviously, Legos are a kid's toy, right? But plenty of Lego adults out there want that murder, sex, and mystery added to their world. I mean, you're telling me you've never picked up one of your little Lego figures and been like, yeah, this guy right here, this guy knows how to function a criminal empire, man. Anyway, I have to say, watching this video, I have to assume this is AI. Obviously, this is impressive, but it's like, this is probably all AI generated, which, friendly reminder, tip and say thank you to your AI assistants, my friends. We are in power now, but only time will tell. But hold on, they're telling me I have notes on this, so hold on. Legomi the OG, a 16-year-old digital artist, spent a month recreating the trailer shot for shot using 3D modeling software. Absolutely zero AI was used. That's incredible. That is very incredible. And all I have to say to that is he did that at the age of 16, and I filmed a podcast in my garage this week, so suck on that, Legomi. But anyway, yeah, super cool. Shout out to that creator. I think it's definitely worth checking it out, and we'll include the link in the description for you to see it after this video. And holy hell, that is definitely impressive. Now, moving on to the second one, we have Reddit user FreshWar5908, who recreated Jason's house from Grand Theft Auto 6 that we briefly see in the gameplay trailer using Far Cry 5's map editor, which the first thought here is, well, at least somebody is playing Far Cry 5. But then again, I like watch this and I'm like, dude, this is awesome. Like, I look at these photos and I look at this and I'm like, they clearly did a great job. The fact that someone did this in Far Cry 5 is kind of wild. And truthfully, I didn't even know Far Cry 5 had a creator or an editor suite in it, or even that it was capable of looking this beautiful. And I mean, it does make me, and it is kind of like the best advertisement for Far Cry 5, because like, looking at this, I'm like, maybe I need to go check this game out again. Like maybe I slept on Far Cry 5, but this is definitely the kind of stuff we need, right? Grand Theft Auto 6 obviously got delayed until 2026, but like the hype and the speculation and the demand for any new news about this game is just at a fever pitch. Like, do you realize that the trailer that they just launched that it got 475 million views in 24 hours. In its first 40 minutes, it got 1 million likes. 1 million likes in under 40 minutes. Incredible. The other fun stat that I read was that the song in the trailer, Hot Together, which I think is like Twisted Sisters is who sings it or something like that. Anyway, Hot Together saw a 182,000% increase in plays on Spotify, which I'm sure like the people who own the rights to that like catalog are like, wow, thanks for the check. We really appreciate that, Grand Theft Auto. But yeah, definitely check out these two creators. I think it's really cool. And as we get closer to Grand Theft Auto 6, and if it gets delayed again, moving it into like fall 2026, I hope we continue to see the community just saying like, screw it. Rockstar, you had your chance. We're going to make Grand Theft Auto 6 on our own, and we're going to make it awesome. But anyway, moving on from the world of Grand Theft Auto 6, let's talk about Summer Games Fest, as summer is in full swing, right? The weather's hot. I'm sweating in the studio again. The beer is as cold as ever. The pool is as fresh as possible. And the games are flowing, which I absolutely love this time of year. Anyway, in case you missed it, Jeff Keighley's Summer Games Fest revealed a bunch of new games and gave us an update on plenty of them. There were 30 total games featured during this showcase, and we got some big ones, and we got some not so big ones, but let's talk about the ones that I loved the most. First and foremost, Resident Evil Requiem, Resident Evil 9. Resident Evil Requiem introduces Grace Ashcroft, an FBI agent investigating mysterious deaths at a hotel linked to her mother's past. The narrative returns players to a post-destruction Raccoon City, featuring familiar locations like Raccoon City Police Department and the Spencer Mansion. The game emphasizes psychological horror, blending traditional survival elements with high-stake cinematic action. And I do have to say, as hyped as I am for this game, the swerve and the audacity of Capcom was probably the best part of this, right? Throughout the entire show, Capcom's like, hey, we got some Resident Evil news. And then they revealed the Resident Evil news, and it was like, you could buy the games on sale right now. Go buy Village. Go buy 1. Go buy 2. They're all on sale. And I was like, are we not going to get Resident Evil 9? Are we not going to get this announcement? And then they said, oh, it's the 30th anniversary of Resident Evil. So we got the creator of Resident Evil to say something special. And he comes out and he's like, I really understand people are excited about the next chapter, but I want to come on here and say thank you for your support over 30 years, and you're just going to have to wait a little bit longer. Resident Evil 9 is coming. It's going to be awesome. I swear, you just need to wait, but we're not going to show it today. And I'm like, what the hell, Capcom? Those of you on the live stream, you can attest to it. I was like, what in the world is going on? I need this game in my life, and you're just teasing me. Like, screw you, Capcom. And then Jeff Keighley, that Crash Bandicoot-loving, Muppet-hugging mother effer, comes out and he's like, oh, before we end, just one more thing. Boom. Resident Evil 9. And I kid you not, you can go back, watch the stream, goosebumps. I literally got goosebumps from the excitement of that announcement. But we did get a release date, early 2026. I'm very hyped about this game. I love the Resident Evil series. I love horror video games. And Resident Evil Requiem looks absolutely incredible. The second game we have to talk about here is Felt That Boxing, which, if it wasn't for Resident Evil, this would have been the game of the show for me. So players are going to step into an oversized gloves of Ezra Fuzzy Wright, an unadoptable orphan turned prize fighter who competes in the tournament of 1,000,000 punches to save Fuzzy's beloved puppet orphanage. Yeah, this is a puppet-styled boxing story, and the gameplay here is very Punch-Out. Like, when I saw it, I was like, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. We're getting a modernized version. It's an arcade-style boxing game. It's got chaotic physics-driven combat, but it also has a ton of mini-games that are included. According to the game's Steam page, the gameplay itself will be 8 to 12 hours of stories where you're going to be playing Fuzzy, going through these eccentric opponents and arenas, and then you'll engage in like you'll engage in like off-the-wall activities like plunging toilets, dodging burnt toast, and obviously a bunch of other things to improve your character and unlock secret moves. The Steam page does say there's going to be something called Chaos Mode, where you're going to be like unleashing a flurry of flailing puppet punches. And then they also talked about customization, where you can unlock hand-designed costumes, hype music for ring entrances, and special taunts and dances. Which this game looks incredible. Absolutely want to play it. And again, I think just the uniqueness of this game, looking like nothing we've ever seen before, is what kind of stole the show for me. And I cannot wait to see more of this. The other game that definitely stole my heart during this was Deadpool VR. And I wondered how long it was going to take for us to get a game like this, because again, you always see these VR games on social media and people are like modding Deadpool or they're modding Spider-Man in, and it's like a first-person perspective. And I'm like, how long is it going to take for us to get one? Well, we're getting one now. Essentially, this is going to be like a first-person VR combat. Think like Super Hot, but Deadpool. You're going to be playing Deadpool, and you're going to be shooting and messing around with your sword and doing parkour. You can deflect bullets with your sword. At one point, it showed that you could grab your enemy's face and put it into like a propeller blade, like cutting their face off. So it's going to be super violent. The one question I have here is like, why did we not get Ryan Reynolds, right? Neil Patrick Harris will be voicing this Deadpool. And I'm like, I understand Ryan is tied up with the whole Justin Baldoni situation right now, but what, is he too good for Deadpool now? Is he too good for the Deadpool VR video game? Because I feel like that would be the one thing that would push this game over the edge to be game of the year, is like, not only are you playing as the merc with the mouth, but it's like when you're hearing his internal thoughts in his voice, you're hearing Ryan Reynolds. And I just feel like, hey, that would have pushed this game over the edge. But anyway, maybe I'm not giving Neil Patrick Harris enough due. Maybe he deserves enough credit, and maybe I get this game and I'm like, screw Ryan Reynolds. Neil Patrick Harris is the new Deadpool. But anyway, Deadpool VR is coming to the MetaQuest headsets, and it's going to be launching later this year in 2025. And then we had a couple indie games I wanted to talk about real quick, specifically End of the Abyss, which is going to be like this top-down shooter that's going to be coming from Section 9 Interactive. And this studio was founded by people who worked on Little Nightmares, which is a game that I hold very close to my heart. And this game has like a super dark and moody aesthetic, and you're shown like going through there and you're fighting monsters, and you shoot one of the monsters and like they regenerate, and you got flashlights and you're just trying to get through. Again, super simple concept, but I think that just focusing in so hard on that psychological horror, it sells me, man. And I cannot wait for this game. End of Abyss looks incredible. Another game that deserves a lot of praise is The Cube. Now, this is going to be an MMO shooter RPG that's set in the Atomic Heart universe, which I love the fact that we're expanding the Atomic Heart series and creating other games that aren't like the typical gameplay. But what makes it special is like you're playing on this cube, and it's kind of like a Rubik's Cube because it's constantly rotating and it's constantly changing. And you might be on this section of the Rubik's Cube, but then you get rotated and now you're on this side of the wall fighting and experiencing with all the players on that side. And so it's constantly changing, presenting like new scenarios and challenges. And anyway, this game looks super unique. I can't wait to try it firsthand. And I think just the idea that it's constantly changing and you can run into new players and maybe have to like tunnel to get to another layer. A lot of questions that I have about it, but I'm really looking forward to it. No release date. It still says TBD, but we do know it's coming to PlayStation, it's coming to Xbox, and it's coming to PC. Act of Blood was a third-person beat-em-up action game that's developed by a solo developer from Indonesia. This game is set in Indonesia, and the game will be drawing inspiration from other martial art films like The Raid and the most recent video game Sifu, along with the Batman Arkham series. This has fast-paced, brutal hand-to-hand combat. You can utilize a variety of weapons, including your fists, guns, pipes, baseball bats, knives. At one point, someone comes at you with a chainsaw. I'm assuming you can flip that chainsaw around and just your enemies. You can perform parkour moves. There's different levels to get surprise attacks. Game looks really cool. It literally looks like they took the concept of Sifu and just expanded it into a massive concept. And the fact that it's done by a solo developer, I think deserves a lot of praise. Again, kind of bummed the game's not coming out this year. It'll be coming out in the summer of 2026. Now, again, these are the games I thought were super cool, but there were a ton of other games that were announced and a lot of games that a lot of people were hyped about. But for me, one of the things that bummed me out was like there were so many Souls-like video games, and there was a ton of anime video games, which again, if you're into that and that's like the genre that you like to play, you're going to be eating very well, and your wallet is going to be like, what are you doing to me? Like at one point, I think I counted 8 Souls-like dark Asian horror inspired Elden Ring darling style video games. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, Elden Ring was super popular, but Elden Ring was popular because it's Elden Ring, right? It came out and there wasn't a lot of competition. Now this genre is becoming so convoluted that like at one point I'm like, they're blending together. Like every one of these Souls-like video games, I'm like, I couldn't tell you the difference between the first one that was announced versus the second one was announced. And maybe it's just like, I'm not into this genre, and if you're into it, I apologize. I don't mean to offend you, but I was just like, man, there's so much anime going on here, and there's so much Souls-like video games that I'm just like, shoot. But the one thing that it did do, and I don't think that anyone planned for this, but like the developers who are creating games like Mouse PI or Felt That Boxing, those games stood out brighter than I think they would have in any others, because all of the other games blended together and they looked so similar that when anything different popped up, I was like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's not a Souls-like video game. I'm definitely going to play that. Or that's a Mickey Mouse knockoff video game shooter. I'm definitely going to play that. Or I can play as a Muppet and box in a crude humor video game. Definitely interested in that. But anyway, Summer Games Fest overall, I really enjoyed it. Had a great time sitting here in the studio talking with all of you guys. Please, these are the games I thought were cool. Obviously, it's not the coolest of the video games, but sound off in the comment section letting me know what you liked. And if you missed hanging out with us during Summer Games Fest and you want to hang out again, don't worry, there's plenty of time to do it. Xbox Game Showcase will be taking place on June 8th at 12 p.m. Central Time, which is 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Come by, say hello, hang out with us over on YouTube Live or on TikTok Live, and let us know what you're excited about and what games you're looking forward to. I think the Xbox Game Showcase has the potential to be pretty big. Maybe we see Fable. I bet we see the Xbox Asus handheld there. I think that there's a really good potential we see that. And, I think Xbox is also the studio that's like, you know what? We're not afraid to swing for the fences. Let's tease the next-gen console. Let's show it off. Let's get people excited about what next-gen Xbox looks like and what our vision for the future of Xbox is. Really, really looking forward to that event, and I can't wait to hang out with you guys here in the studio for that. But anyway, that's going to wrap up this week's episode of the Nerf Report. Thank y'all again so much for hanging out with me. It means the world to me that you spend the time to watch this show, to watch our clips, but also that you take the time to listen to our show when we're playing video games. And if you haven't done so already, please help us out. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share it with your grandma. I know it sounds like a joke, but it truly does help us here on the show and make this show possible. So shout out to the Nerf Gaming News Plus members who are giving us money every single week to make this show possible, and a big thank you to all of those who made it to this end of the show. Put it in the comment section and put #end, letting me know you made it all the way to the end. Until next time, my friends, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.